Hello and welcome to WomanVision TV. I'm your host, Nadia Giordana. I've got something fun to show you today in the kitchen. Recently, I was asked to make up some turkey for a gathering. And when I do that, especially in order to get very tender and moist breast meat, I use a roaster oven. I will show you how I do that today. And in addition, I will make my quinoa turkey dressing slash stuffing. It is delicious and wonderful. I don't know if it will ever replace traditional stuffing because we are creatures of habit, but this is definitely a healthier and very delicious alternative choice for diners who really want to make some smart choices through the holidays and get through the holidays staying healthy and not gaining a significant amount of weight, as statistics show we usually do. Then, as a bonus, I will show you how I make quinoa stir fry, which is one of the staples of my regular diet. Come join me in the kitchen. Hi, today I want to make for you my quinoa stuffing. This is used in our house for turkey most often, but sometimes with other dishes and sometimes as a standalone. I've got a hot pan and a little bit of oil, not very much. The main ingredients besides quinoa and a small amount of bread stuffings are celery, onion, mushrooms, and chopped kale. Now I use usually, yeah, that's gonna pop. Let's turn that down just a little. I like that. And again, onion, celery, mushrooms, and chopped kale, which basic standard ingredients. I will saute those until the onion is translucent. And we'll get that going. This is a very simple recipe. Turn that back up a little bit. As you've probably noticed, I add kale to an awful lot of things that I cook because it is one of the superfoods and I like it. There's about a half a cup of each of these four ingredients in this particular recipe. Now, one thing that I don't use in this dressing is, usually I don't use, I'll test it, but is a little bit of broth. When you're just using breadcrumbs, dry breadcrumbs, and I'll only use about half of these. When you're just using dry breadcrumbs to make a standard dressing, you need a little more moisture. But since I'm using 2/3 of quinoa to only 1/3 of breadcrumbs, there's a lot of moisture in the pre-cooked quinoa, so we won't need to add broth to this recipe. Nice color. Can you see that? These are getting close. The onions are just starting to turn translucent, and so is the celery. And of course you want the mushrooms a little bit sauteed also. Okay, I think I can turn that off. cool down slightly. One thing I will add is roughly a teaspoon of sage. Sage is about the only thing I use in my stuffing. You might have some other favorites, but I think it's pretty standard, and it isn't stuffing to me without sage. Oh, there's one other thing I want to add. Let's turn this heat back on for just a minute. The giblets, I pre-boiled and chopped up the turkey giblets, so they're already pre-cooked and tender. I like to have them warm when I put the stuffing together, so that can go in. We don't want to forget one of the most important ingredients. Get them warm. Cook for about one more minute, maybe even 30 seconds. Okay, much better. Turn that off. Now you see. This is what I want. I will put this into a mixing bowl, stainless steel bowl, and set this aside. I'm going to add about a cup, half of this, of the dry breadcrumbs, and 2 cups of quinoa. What did I do with my spatula? And then lightly mix these things. There, can you see that? That looks beautiful. And I will put it into baking dishes. And like I said, I don't use broth for this recipe with the quinoa because there's moisture in the pre-cooked quinoa. At this point, you can either bake it in a regular oven or alongside in the oven with your turkey, or as a standalone. Today I'm going to fit it into the roaster oven with my turkey, but we'll do that a little bit later. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back, and I want to show you how Chuck and I usually do a turkey in an 18-quart roaster oven. This one happens to be the Nesco Roast Air Oven. It also has an air feature, a wind feature that helps make a crispier crust on your turkey when you're going for that. I'm not doing that today. Most of you out there in the audience have an ordinary 18-quart roaster that has a simple lid on it, and that is the way I'm baking my turkey today. So you'll see this cord here, we're not even using this, we're not plugging it in, I'm not using the air feature. I'm going to do my turkey the regular way, the way most of you do it when you use your roaster oven. Now it's already hot. Right now I have it at 200 degrees. I'm going to bring that up to about 325 degrees and put a little bit of water in the bottom. This kind of helps the juices get going. Now I cut up my turkey. This is one thing I wanted to mention. I cut up my turkey into pieces because one of the things that I like to do is remove the turkey breast before the rest of the turkey to help keep it moist. I'm not baking a turkey for presentation purposes today. The first thing I will put in there, closer to the bottom, is the That's the back piece. Get that in. That'll be used for scraps and probably for a soup later. I will get my turkey breast situated. This is a small turkey. I didn't look at the weight, but they're about a 12-pounder. So this is a small turkey, but there are only 2 people in our house. This is going to be more than enough for us. I've got the wings. I do like to tighten them up. The leg pieces. So I pre-cut the turkey. You all know how to do that. And put these pieces in here just so that they fit. Now, later on, I may put the stuffing in here. What I'll probably do is let this cook for a while, then I'll remove that backbone piece and move those things over. Might be when I remove the breast too, but I will then pop this in on the side, and it can actually bake in the roaster oven with the turkey. But it doesn't need nearly as much time as the turkey, so I'm going to let the turkey go by itself now for a while. I'm going to get a little bit of butter here, and I had dried the pieces of the turkey so that I could rub them with a little bit of butter. And you just kind of have to do that with a recipe like this. And get that going. I'll wipe my hands off here. And then all I do is sprinkle a little sage. Told you I like sage with my turkey. And, oh, maybe a little later I'll add some salt and pepper on there, but not right now. I've got the temperature up. I'll put this lid on. And I'll cook it. I don't know. This whole thing may take a couple of hours. I go by the temperature within the turkey pieces, so I will check it a time or two during the process to see what the internal temperature of the bird is. And that's how I know when it's done. I'll be back. Let's check our progress, shall we? All right, what I want to do first is remove the breast if it's finished. Oh, first, what I'll do though, I don't need this in here, and that is to move out the back piece, mainly because I need more room in here, and I will move these pieces over, a couple of the leg pieces over slightly, and give myself some room to put the dressing in. And let that cook for, 30-40 minutes. First I'll check the breast temperature. It's not quite ready. It will be done before I take everything out, but right now, okay, that can sit for a few minutes. I'll bring the breast out when it's at 160 degrees and let it sit. The temperature, internal temperature will rise while it's out, but that helps keep the breast moist, and I'll let the dark meat cook a little bit longer. Right now, we're going to let the dressing get hot and start baking in here, and I'll be back to check on this again and remove the breast. Now let's check on the breast. Everything is looking good. Let's see what this thermometer tells us. I want it to be at 160 degrees. Yeah, no, okay. We have that. So I'll bring our breast out before the other pieces. Let it sit. I will continue to roast the dark meat pieces for a little while longer. They're going to be closer to 170, getting close to 180 before I take those out. And by then, the dressing should be finished. I think we're finished. Let's check. I don't think I even need a thermometer. I can tell by looking at these, and I will show you here in just a second what I mean. But we'll check in the center to see if they're close to 180 degrees. I will show you quickly while that indicates. Look at the dressing and how fluffy it is. It's loose and fluffy, yet moist and delicious. So the dressing is finished also. Take a closer look at this. You can see the way the meat pulls away from the bone, that I don't really even need a thermometer. This is done. So next, we'll get these turkey pieces out. Let them sit for about 20 minutes and then carve for a platter. Lovely dressing out of here. Set it on something there. Now, if you want to make gravy, there are plenty of drippings in here. I always make a gravy and serve with the turkey and dressing. And I'll do that next. I don't need to show you. You're going to do your gravy your own way. But generally, I'll use a little bit of flour and water and stir into the broth and the juices and cook it up until I have my gravy. That's the way my mom always made it, and that's what works for us. And I'll show you the finished product and dinner as soon as I get it ready for you. Take a look at this plate. I have a little white meat, some dark meat, I like that wing piece, and the quinoa dressing, and the homemade gravy. What could be better? Hello again. I want to make something for you that's one of my favorite things. I usually make this weekly. I eat it several times a week, mainly because, first of all, it tastes good, and it's different every time I make it because of the way I mix it up, but it's also low calorie and healthy. It's a quinoa stir fry, I guess if you want to call it that. Here, I'll start. I've got a hot pan here already. I'll put a little oil in here. Doesn't take very much. And I think I'll turn the heat down just a titch. This is not a recipe. This is more of a method than a recipe. Let me get a spatula that I can use, and we'll be set to go. I use pre-cooked quinoa, and if you can see in this quinoa, it has a deep yellow color. That's not really from the quinoa itself. That's because I cooked it in a mixture of broth and water, and also I put in a little turmeric, brain food. I usually add that in an awful lot of things that I cook. So this is hot. Get that down just a little. And get the onions sauteing. I love this burner because it goes from one extreme to the other, so I have a full range of heat and temperatures. It works really well. So turn that down and simmer. Cook these onions till they're translucent. The other ingredient, and it doesn't matter what ingredients you use, mainly you're going to use your favorite things. Now I'm going to put a little celery in here. And that takes a little longer to cook, so that goes in early. Exactly the same method as you use with a stir fry. A little carrot. I'll put all of those. I don't have very many carrots here. I'll get those started. Yeah. When you cook quinoa, you often hear that it might have a little bit of a bitter taste and you need to rinse it. That's not really true if you buy it in the box form where it's already been rinsed and cleaned and dried. And that's what I usually buy, and that's what I used here. And you cook it 15 to 20 minutes just until that little germ ring begins to show and the kernels or whatever they're called, the grains, are semi-translucent. So I pre-cooked that quinoa. Keep that down just a little. Mushrooms, something I like. I put a few mushrooms in there. Any kind of other vegetable. I like a lot of green things in there. I like red pepper. I don't have any today. Some green beans are wonderful. Those are parboiled. Sometimes I use broccoli or cauliflower. Here's a couple of zucchini slices. And my favorite thing, if there's one ingredient I always put in this mix of quinoa, is kale. Once in a while, if I don't have kale, I'll use spinach, but kale is my #1 ingredient that I put in here virtually all of the time. Cook that. Oh, you know what I forgot? A little splash of broth. Put a little bit and not very much. This is chicken broth. You could use vegetable broth. To give it just a little moisture and to simmer up these vegetables. I might put an herb in here, rosemary, oregano. Today I have basil. Just whatever you like. A splash of soy sauce. And if I really want an Asian flavor, then I might add some sesame oil. I'm not really going for that today, but when I have more Asian-like ingredients and just want that extra flavor, I'll put sesame oil in the dish. Once in a while, I'll even add a little extra turmeric. Here comes the quinoa. Again, no measurements. It just really depends on how the ingredients come together, how much you have of one thing or another. I think that's enough for what we're doing today. I wanted to make a couple of servings here. And simmer this up until you could even take it off the heat and eat it now with all the vegetables al dente. I like to cook a little longer so that the grains of the quinoa start to dry out just a little bit. That's my personal preference. You can do it however you like. Look at the colors. And this is not hard. plate it up for you. This is gorgeous. It's more than one person can eat, but I want you to see it. This is 2 servings. Look at the beautiful plate of quinoa stir fry.